Well, Susanne, I'm holding in my hands this fantastic book, Beàrnaraigh Na Hearadh, 'Tis 50 years since, a study of life in a Hebridean island community by Susanne Barding. Now, I'm aware that this has been a long time in the gestation because it's based on research that you did back in the early 1970s as a young Danish anthropologist. And I and the Islands Book Trust have only arrived on the scene like at the last second to midnight, I think, in the last few months in my case. But could you tell us a bit about the background to how you came to do this original research in the 1970s? So coming from Denmark, how did you get involved with the Berneray community?
Yes, that's a very good question. I was born and brought up in Copenhagen, so I'm Danish, and I grew up in a very nice neighborhood in Copenhagen with canals and sailors and boats, and only about 10 minutes across a bridge, and I was in the center of Copenhagen. And well, I had a normal childhood, I would say, and I went to university later on, and I was quite sure I was going to study anthropology. So yes.
And why Berneray? How did you
Why
come to
Berneray? Well, then I traveled in Great Britain, and I got interested in the Western Islands. And I think this, English teacher at high school, he was involved too. He kindled my interest in Scotland.
Yes.
So I found myself one day outside the School of Scottish Studies,
yes.
and I wanted to know more about crofting. So I dared inside to ask about literature about crofting. And then the following year, I returned and I was going on my first anthropological fieldwork. And I had this contact with Bob Story at the Highlands and Islands Development Board. And he suggested I went to Berneray because Berneray was quite small and it was isolated at the time. So he thought it was easy to go there for my 3 months of fieldwork. And we didn't know at the time if I was able to come back.
Yes. Right, I see. So in a way, Berneray was selected.
It was selected for me. I didn't select it myself, but I think that was quite sensible that the Highland Board had this kind of, contact, so that people were not going to the same places.
Yes.
Yeah.
And what sort of expectations then did you have when, at the time you were going there for the first time?
Yes.
Did you really know anything at all about the island, or what were you expecting to happen?
I don't really know. It's so many years ago. But I will say that my expectations were divided between my personal expectations of, I was 23, of maturing and getting new friends and meeting a new community, and my academic expectations of being a good anthropologist, to learn the trade. Yes.
So you immersed yourself in the local community, I think, in reading the book, and got to know a lot of the islanders very well indeed, and their stories are in the book here.
Yes, I know.
So what came out of it for you? Was there anything that was unexpected to you, or very different from what you had expected to happen?
Certainly, because I was brought up in what I call a low context community, where people don't know much about each other. And I arrived in a high context community where people know everything about each other. So that was quite different, because in a city you can just walk away if you don't like people, but you couldn't do that here. You had to relate to everybody, and you had to stay on. So that was something I didn't expect, I think. And I came really to admire this very small community because of the ways they did that. They related to each other, and they, used a sort of a joking relationship to get through conflicts and just store them away for later use.
Well, you must have built up a huge amount of trust with the local community.
I think I did that because people were very kind to me, and I think they trusted me in the way that they trusted each other, which I think it is not 100%. It's not, because living in a small community comes with a price. Yes, it does.
And that comes out in the book. I mean, there's so much detail in here, and personal stories and anecdotes, and getting into the minutiae of crofting life and the fishing. So much detail here of the crofting community, which is very rare, I think, and seeing it with eyes from the outside, I think, gives it a different perspective.
Yes, I think you are right there. I was very good at notes, writing my notes in the evening. You have to be very careful what you put down, and you can't put anything down because you have to keep the trust of the people. And it was not easy, all of it, because the female role in Berneray at the time was really to stay in the house and not be out gallivanting, as I said. And I was gallivanting every day, being around, talking to everybody. So I had to do that. And of course, there was a lot of questioning when I got back in the evening, and I had to thread very carefully.
And did you think at the time that the output from your study might be something like this?
No. I thought at the time, academically, I was going to collect material for my thesis. And, after that, I was involved with another project, which took me to the Faroes. So I just put the Berneray material on the shelf for so many years. And I was teaching, and I didn't, in fact, have the time to go down and write about this material. I can see now, going back, that I tried at different times, I think in the 80s, to look at the life histories again. But then I shelved it again because I didn't have the time for it. So it was not before, until I was retired, that I came to think about Berneray again. And I took down the life histories, and that's where I started getting those in place. And after that, I just started at chapter 1.
And writing up your notes and writing this book from 50 years later, or nearly 50 years later, when you were writing it, do you think your experience after leaving Berneray, particularly in the Faroes, do you think that added to the story and gave a different perspective on it?
I'm sure about that, because the Hebridean community and the Faroese community are very much alike. I think I brought a lot of Berneray to the Faroes in the beginning anyway, and I had been used to live in a high context community, which was very useful when I arrived in the Faroes. And I think living in a community like that for 50 years, as I have done in the Faroes, has added to the book, of course.
And there are photos in the book of the Faroes, for example. So it is, in a way, it's a comparative study, although obviously the focus is absolutely on the community of Berneray.
I know I use a lot of comparisons and parallels to the Faroes.
And I think that's really valuable.
Yes.
And could you, as an anthropologist, I mean, could you say a bit more about how your study differs or is the same from other similar studies? Have there been any other studies like this? And are there differences in the way you approached it from them?
I think so, because I decided when I started on that book not to write an academic book.
Yes.
I wanted to give something back to the people of Berneray. And, you know, one of the life histories was with Ian Ferguson. And I promised Ian then, it was a bit brave, I think, but I did, that his knowledge would not be forgotten. And so this promise was still at the back of my head so many years later. And Ian, you know, he didn't get very old. He died in, I think, 88.
Right.
So he has been gone for many years. Right. But still, I wanted to keep my promise.
Well, you certainly fulfilled your promise.
Yes, I can say that.
Yes. Now,
so I wanted to write a community history, which is not an academic book as such. But I have used anthropological concepts and methods where I thought they were useful.
Yes.
But I do hope that anyone with an interest in the Hebrides can read that book.
Yes, and that's very, very important to us as the Book Trust, that we try to be very inclusive in our approach. And it is written in lay person's terms. And there's a lot in here that I think resonates with other crofting communities.
Yes, I think you're right there, yes.
Now, you're about to go back to Berneray for the first time in 50 years.
Yes, I am.
How do you feel about that?
I think I've got mixed feelings because I'm really looking forward to going back, to see the people who are still there and to meet the new people, the incomers to the island. I really look forward to that. But still, you know, leaving a place, you always want this place to stay as it is. We are all conservative in that way.
Yes.
And I realize that the community has changed completely, I would say. It was 100% Gaelic-speaking community when I was there. And it is not anymore. Everything is in English. I've just been told there will be a service on Sunday, but it will be in English because I think the minister hasn't got Gaelic. So that's it. It's a completely different community. And I hope I will meet it, you know, open-mindedly. And so, yes.
Well, I'm also looking forward to the launch of the book in Berneray. I don't know as much about the island as you do, but as you say, it'll be fascinating to see how it is received by the current Berneray community, and also to reflect on all the changes that have happened over the last 50 years. And they happen in every community, so one can't expect it to be the same.
You know, I would love to go back and do the Berneray Revisited, but it is not me who is going to do that. I would like a younger anthropologist to come in and do that because I'm old now.
Well, okay. Well, thank you very much, Susanne. And on behalf of the Islands Book Trust, can I thank you very much for all the huge amount of effort that has gone into this book. I know from personal experience over the last few months. Even the index in this book
Yes.
has over 300 names of Berneray people
Yes, so
in the
you
index.
say.
And that is an important social document, I think, in its own right.
Yes, and I, of course, allow me to thank you and the Book Trust for doing this, because if you didn't do this, it would not be published. I realize that. It would just end up on the shelf. So
Okay,
thank you
well,
very
thank you very
much.
much indeed, and we will see what the reaction is from not only the people of Berneray, but a much wider
Yes,
readership that I think will be interested in this account.
and Berneray people everywhere.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. Okay, thank you very much,
Yes.
Susanne.
And thank you to you.